Welcome to Synergize, unscripted conversations where we explore the evolving role of the financial advisor in an emerging AI-driven world. Join us as we bring together thought leaders across a range of disciplines and industry experts, sharing insights designed to help RIAs thrive in the industry of tomorrow.
Hello, I am Ryan Neal, Senior Editor at TradePMR, a Robinhood company, and you are listening to the Synergize podcast. My co-host Bill Coppel is traveling on business. I believe he's on his way currently to my home state of California, so I will be flying solo as the host this episode while he is flying across the country. But what we're going to be talking about today is the opportunity that advisors have to create a new talent pipeline as well as attract new clients as they seek to build a firm that's growing and sustainable for the future. With the wealth transfer that's already underway that we've talked a lot about on this podcast, I'm sure all of our listeners have heard about, serving NextGen clients as well as bringing in younger, newer talent of advisors really is going to be key to achieving that sustainable growth. But the world has changed, right? The way younger clients and younger advisors think and feel about money and investing is much different today and much different from how their parents did it. It's as different as the way they use their phones or consume media or really just about anything you can think of, right? Younger people are doing it much differently. So if RIAs want to work with that next generation, or at the very least make their firms appealing for the next generation of advisors, it really just can't be business as usual. Something has got to change. But we all know that's easier said than done. Change, we can talk about it. It's much harder to do it. And things as fundamental as like your business model may need to evolve if you want to make the economics work. So my guest today, Alan Moore, is somebody who has tackled many of these issues head on.
We like to say, think about 1% of income instead of 1% of assets. So if you only focus on assets, again, the percentage of Americans with $500,000 or more in investable assets waiting for an advisor to manage it is pretty small. So it's a really challenging marketplace.
Alan and I have known each other for many years. He is the co-founder of the XY Planning Network, a coalition made up of next-generation financial advisors who are focused on serving a younger, digitally savvy client set. So if you want to learn more about Alan's background and experience, please refer to our show notes. And Alan, thanks for joining me. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Ryan. Excited to be here.
So I've written about XY Planning Network, which you founded with Michael Kitsis, about 10 years ago now?
Coming up on 11 years next week. So
nice. Congratulations. So I'm really familiar with all the work that you guys have been doing. I've been to your conferences several times, but some of our advisors out there may not be familiar with you. So do you want to give us a quick rundown of XYPN and what you guys have built?
Absolutely. So if we go way back in time to 2012, I was 25 years old and I launched my own fee-only RIA. And I had my own reasons for doing it, but ultimately I just wanted to be in control of my firm, my time, and the clients that I worked with. And I got the question of, well, how are you going to find baby boomer millionaires to let you manage their money? And I said, I'm not. I don't know any baby boomer millionaires, but I know lots of clients in their 20s, 30s, 40s who are dealing with things I'm dealing with, getting married, getting divorced, having kids, buying houses, student loans. And I'll work with them. So then the follow-up response was always, but they don't have enough money to pay you. Like they don't have enough assets. And that was true. They didn't have enough assets, but they did have income. And so it really felt like a business model problem, not a client problem. And so I launched my own firm to work with NextGen clients and had some early success. And I immediately started getting calls from other advisors asking, how do you do compliance? How do you do marketing? What technology are you using? No one ever called me and asked me how to do a life insurance analysis. It wasn't technical, it was business. And what I realized was, the professional designations like the CFP teach us how to do the work of being a financial planner. They do not teach us how to run a business of financial planning. And so we launched XYPN in order to be that platform that helps supported advisors on the 80% that is running a business. With their technology, their compliance, their E&O insurance, all the things that's sort of operationally necessary to run their business so that they can go out and spend their time working with clients. And we've grown, we're just over 2,000 advisors now that are affiliated with XYPN that are dedicated to serving NextGen clients.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. So I guess we can just go right into sort of that model, right? Because that's maybe at the core of a lot of this is that AUM model. It's really dominated the RIA space for a while now. Um, but that really does necessitate you have to work with clients with a certain amount of wealth in order to make it work. Um, so what is the XYPN approach there? And I guess what can other advisors learn from that approach and how it's been successful?
Yeah, we like to say think about 1% of income instead of 1% of assets. So if you only focus on assets, again, the percentage of Americans with half a million or more in investable assets waiting for an advisor to manage it is pretty small. It's a really challenging marketplace. And so when I was starting my own firm, I said, well, I don't want to go head to head for this $1 million client with this, established firm. I want to work with a client who can't get access to a financial planner. And, I remember my first client, she was an anesthesiologist making $500,000 a year, but had no investable assets. And so other fee for service firms wouldn't work with her. And I'm over the moon because I just charged her, I think at the time I was charging $5,000 for a year for financial planning. And she was more than happy to spend 1% of her income on financial planning. Obviously, I had to show value for that. And that was really when it clicked for me that we had a business model challenge, not a client challenge. There are so many consumers who are out there who can be substantial income, substantial net worth, but if their net worth is tied up in a small business or real estate or stock options, they don't have the liquid assets for you to take 1% out of their AUM. And so, when we started XYPN, it was a theory. It was a theory that clients would pay out of cash flow for financial planning. And we have proven that to be the case. Our advisors are building very successful businesses, working with clients on a fee for service basis. I also want to caveat that many of our advisors also do AUM. So people many times will say like, oh, you think AUM is going away? Absolutely not. We think AUM is here for the long run. We see fee for service as a bolt-on, as a something that you can add to your firm offering. It is not a replacement.
Right. I think that's something that I've seen, over the 10 years that I wrote about the industry as a reporter. Was it when you guys kind of first came on the scene, there seemed to be almost like a debate of like fee for service versus AUM and versus commissions. And it seems like that has sort of given way to more of a do the business model that best fits your client. And to me, that's kind of just how it should be, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, well, I love that. And so something else I want to talk about was you talked about, the idea of you can learn how to be an advisor, but don't necessarily learn how to run your business, which is a theme that's come up a lot on this podcast. But also the RIA industry, to use like a baseball analogy, doesn't really have like a farm team. So when we're trying to talk about getting next generation talent into this industry and how much we needed the aging industry, right? A lot of advisors are leaving, not enough coming in to fill it. We've seen a lot about that. What should firms be thinking about? What do they need to change in order to attract the next generation talent that are working at XYPN? What about the approaches the industry need to change? What do they need to reconsider?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage advisors to first be sure you are really clear on the type of business you want to build. If you just want to be a solo advisor for the rest of your career, you don't have to hire. Don't worry about having a farm team. You're solo. That's fine. So there's no should here. I like to say, like, don't let me should. Don't should on yourself. Don't let me should on you. Like, I'm not telling you should hire. But I will tell you that I would like for you to figure out, where do you want your business to go? Are you wanting to be solo? Do you want to be a small team? Do you want to be a mega firm, enterprise size firm? And that will dictate what you do here. Because if you want to be an enterprise firm with hundreds of advisors, you are going to have a much more robust training and development program. If you want to be mid-size, you're going to have one, but you're not going to have the same resources to invest into it. And so the areas that I encourage advisors to really think about is, when I go and speak at conferences and ask it, who's hiring, a lot of hands go up. Who's struggling to find and retain talent? A lot of hands go up. And then I like to say, who here has read a book on management or business culture in the last year? And no hands go up. And it's one of those things, like, I catch myself as a parent. I'm like, yeah, when was the last time I read a parenting book on like how to be a better parent? And yet we just like struggle through that process. And so what I see, and we get a lot of folks who are joining XYPN who are leaving firms because the work culture is just awful. It's not a great place to work. They're not getting training and development. They're not getting support when life happens. They're not getting opportunities to be able to work with clients. Just their ideas aren't being heard. Whatever the thing is, we have some folks who will join and say, I'm launching my own business to start a family. I'm like, that's the antithesis of entrepreneurship. You're supposed to go get a W-2 job with health insurance. And they say, yeah, but my last firm didn't support having me being a parent. They didn't have a parental leave policy. There was no flex time, those sorts of things. And so I had to start my own firm to be a parent. And I'm like, wow, that speaks to the strides we need to make as an industry in terms of being great employers that take care of our people, that really support them in their life.
So is the kind of de facto model still the idea that maybe you come out of college, you get a low level job at a big brokerage or a wirehouse, and you work your way up, you maybe get some clients, and then you go independent? Is that just kind of what we still expect people to do?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you look at the statistics, the vast majority of folks are still getting hired by the companies with their name on the biggest building in the downtown of every major city, right?
Right.
Like the companies our parents could recognize, like that's where the majority of the jobs are. Now, that's also where the majority of the churn is. What we have seen, and it's happening slower than I would like, but these things just take time, and that is we are starting to see more and more career opportunities at sort of these smaller fee-only fiduciary-focused firms. The other area we are starting to see is sort of this hybrid of some of the very large firms that are running that have big financial planning divisions. There are some companies that are hiring hundreds, if not thousands, of CFPs every year. And those are companies that are starting that sort of bridge this gap of they're able to hire folks when they're young, but not put business development expectations on them, because that's really the problem is when you hire someone who's 22 and then expect them to bring in clients. That is a hard model. And so that's going to help bridge sort of this gap. But yeah, it is a challenge in terms of how do we not only attract the talent into our industry, but retain the talent, because so often they have a bad experience and they leave the industry to go do something else.
Gotcha. So creating that, uh, uh, so to speak, sort of farm system, trying to create that
Yeah.
idea where young people can come in, learn, and grow eventually to reach the big leagues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is actually a conversation that my wife and I were having recently. Was just about she's thinking about her own job and speaking to our parents, and they're kind of just like almost taken aback by us wanting, like, why would you want to leave where you're working? And I look at my own career, and I've hopped around every few years, went to a different paper, and now I'm over here at TradePMR, and I feel like anecdotally, don't have evidence to back this up, but that younger folks, our generation, do tend to move more often than our parents did. I think both my parents were at the
Oh
same
yeah.
company for 15, 20 years. So when they hear me leaving, they're like, oh my gosh, why? Um, but that is it's just a cultural mindset change. So when it comes to advisors and you're thinking about investing in next generation talent and bringing on a young person, how do you balance that with the idea that there might, or maybe probably will leave in like 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, it's one of the challenges that I see with advisory firms when I talk to advisors and they're like, I hired this person and I trained them. And then 5 years later, they quit and they like take it personally. They're like offended that that person left. And it's almost like we expect every job to be a lifelong career at a firm. And like maybe that works out for one person, but
Yeah.
statistically speaking, yes, the younger the generation, the more likely they are to change jobs frequently. And there are many different reasons for that we don't have to get into today. But what I see is that that what advisors are thinking is they invest the time up front and they train these folks. Hopefully, they spend the time they're working with these folks, they're training them up, and then they leave, and they take all of that institutional knowledge with them. What I encourage advisors to do, and it's just a small context switch, there is one guarantee that I can make about you and your business, and that is one day every single employee that works at your firm will leave because everybody dies, right? Like at some point, everyone's going to leave.
Right.
So let's just plan on it. I don't know if they're going to leave in 12 months, 5 years, or 30 years, but let's just assume that at some point in the future, you are going to have somebody else doing that exact same role that you need to train. And what that means is don't tell someone how to do something. Use a Loom video recording or build out a process in your in a spreadsheet or whatever the thing is to be able to document that process so that the next person coming in, you may invest 12 months into training the first person. Well, hopefully then you only need 3 months to train the next one. And I think getting in that mindset of we're going to get extreme value out of everybody that comes through the door. To use your example, like imagine if every time you drafted a new player, you were like, you're here for your entire career. You have no other options. Like that doesn't work. Like you get a lot of value out of that shortstop you drafted for 3-4 years, and then they sign a big contract somewhere else, and then you go find a new shortstop, and you just sort of create that system. And so I think for advisors, really just embracing the fact that your employees will leave at some point, and let's just plan for it. Let's we call it success or knowledge management. Let's have knowledge documented so that we can easily transition it to the next person.
Great. And you've kind of touched on this with your answers already, but thinking about the concept of succession planning, and as we mentioned, a lot of advisors are older and thinking about that future. What do you think needs to change in the industry versus what already exists today? What needs to change to make that more of a defined career path for younger advisors and usher in maybe a wave of younger talent?
I actually believe that the succession planning crisis that folks have been talking about since I got into the business almost 15 years ago now is way overblown, and I don't agree with it. And what I mean by that is this is a business that you can start in your 40s and you have a bunch of clients in their 40s, and then you get into your 50s and your 60s and your 70s and your 80s. And as long as you have your mental acuity, like you can still work with these clients, and maybe they leave over time or pass away or do some distributions. But this is a wonderful business to do well into your retirement years. This is not a business that requires physical labor or something that like requires you to retire at age 60 or at age 65.
Right.
And so I actually think what we're seeing is many advisors are just sort of coasting into the sunset, because why sell your firm for 3 times revenue when you can just hang out for another year, make that revenue, and then sell it for 3x. And then you do that again and again and again until you finally realize, like, all right, like why would I sell this thing? So on one hand, I don't see the same challenges that some of the folks in the industry are seeing. Like I actually see that this is intentional from those advisors, that they don't want to sell, and they want to stay engaged, and they want to keep working with their clients because they have these wonderful relationships. This is a relationship business. That being said, if you're trying to build an enterprise, you're trying to build enterprise value. I think the real challenge that we're facing now is that the valuations have been boosted so much by private equity money that it is really distorting the ability for internal buyers to buy the firm. And so, it used to be I come in, I work here for 10 years. Eventually, I get the opportunity to buy the firm, and I pay off the seller on a friendly seller note for 10 years. But if I'm offering to buy the firm internally, and a private equity firm offers twice what I'm able to finance through a bank, you're going to sell to private equity. Like that's just the reality. Like whether it's PE or whoever it is, like you're going to sell to somebody who's going to write the biggest check. And that creates a challenge for your internal successors that you cannot sell to them at the end. If you truly want your business to stay in the hands of the employees, to be passed down through these generations, as you sort of age, it's a 20 to 30 year sale process to do that. Like this cannot be done in a year. If you want to check, overnight, that's got to come from somewhere else.
Yeah, you can't just oh God, I'm aging myself. I was trying to think of a hip place where you can go find youth, but you can't just go to the bar, find someone in their mid-30s and hire them and say, hey, you're going to take over the firm in 10 years.
Right.
But I like the way you said that's a really interesting idea about that sort of that choice of sort of writing out with your clients, because we see that in other professions, right? Like I'm thinking of my friend's dad who's a dentist and retired, but still has like 2 patients that he still does all their work for. Or my wife's dad is a therapist who is retired, but still takes calls from like his long time. He has like a couple, I don't know how many, a few clients that are long time relationships, and he still sees them. And so I guess we see that in other professions. It kind of makes sense that we would see that here. As you said, it's such a relationship business, and you get rewarded by your career, right? You do this because you love it. So why not just keep managing someone's retirement for as long as they're still around?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is an amazing profession. When I go and talk to college students, I'm like, I can't even tell you how excited I am for this as a profession, as a career path, because financial advisors, particularly if you own your own firm, You have a lot of flexibility. You have a lot of time flexibility and the ability to sort of work when you want to work and from wherever you want to work with. You have a lot of financial flexibility because we make very good money compared to sort of the average American household. And we also help people. We do good work. Like we're the only profession that I'm aware of that actually asks clients, where do you want to go? Most professions are looking rearward. What happened with your money, or what happened with your health, or the legal things or whatever, and we have to sort of handle it now. Financial planning looks forward and says, where do you want to go? And let me help you get there. And that is such a rewarding career path. And so it's like this awesome blend of I get to help a lot of people, make good money, and have a lot of flexibility. And that is a recipe for continuing on as long as possible, because to your point, you love what you do, you're making good money. And we all know go plug in a little bit of income into someone's retirement plan, and it's amazing what that does to the percentage of success. And so continuing to work into and sort of past the traditional retirement age is huge. And we see advisors are definitely embracing that.
Yeah, I guess I should have said for people that listen to this on Spotify or any other platform that has no video, we were using air quotes with retirement.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Lots of air quotes.
my bad for any of our audio only listeners. Well, Alan, I'm going to wrap up our conversation. What we love to do on these podcasts is end with sort of 3 actionable items for our listeners to take with them. And, I really think the hot topic of the day is, how do I find next generation investors? I know you maybe don't want to give away any secret sauce over there, but what can you give to our listeners about if they want to bring in next generation investors or next generation advisors? What are sort of 3 things they can focus on?
Yeah, folks that love to ask me like, oh, what's the right fee structure? What's the right marketing? Should I do TikTok videos or YouTube videos, or should I have a podcast, or should I be on Instagram? And my answer always comes back to, who is your ideal client? So there are 2 decisions you need to make. And when we see folks make these decisions, they have we see just great success in their firms. Those 2 decisions are, who is your ideal client? Who do you want to serve? And you can't say like NextGen. That's like half the population. You got to be more specific. And the more specific you can be, the better. And so get really clear on who you want to serve, and get really clear on what you want your business to be long term. And these answers can change. When I've got young kids, I may want something different out of my business than once I'm empty nested. And that's okay too. So this may evolve, but the decisions around hiring and marketing and what technology is select and what fee structure become very clear when you know who you serve and where you're going. And so I would just encourage, I'm gonna cheat and just use 2, because I think those are the two decisions that if you can make, everything else becomes remarkably easy. Because if you tell me exactly who you work with, the marketing strategy is like obvious. But if you work with quote unquote next gen, like you're going to spend money on billboards and advertising in the local paper and Google ads, like it's too many things. If you can get really specific, then and I could go through dozens of examples of very successful firms that have adopted this sort of niche perspective. But get a niche, get really clear on your ideal client, and get really clear on the business, and the rest of the chips will fall into place.
Yeah, and I think that helps you be authentic, right? Like if you decide suddenly, I want to serve next gen clients, I'm going to go, I don't know, advertise on Roblox or something. It just doesn't work. That's not who you are. And I think what you're saying, so to sum up for our listeners, it's know your ideal client and know where you want your business to go. And to me, that just helps you be your authentic self. You have a plan and you're being who you are.
Yeah, it gives you permission to say yes to the right opportunities, but more importantly, it gives you permission to say no to the wrong opportunities, to the clients that don't fit your profile, that aren't quite the right fit for you, that it lets you say no to hiring when you shouldn't, or no to being solo when you should be hiring. Like whatever the thing is, if you can set those goalposts out there and get really clear on that, it really helps with the decision process. Because ultimately, when you start a business, there's a million decisions you have to make. Like it is purely decision fatigue. And so the more you can get clear about what you're trying to accomplish, the easier those decisions get.
Fantastic. Well, Alan, thank you so much for joining me. It really always good to talk to you. So everyone that's listening, we hope you enjoyed today's conversation. If you like what you heard, please just take a moment to hit subscribe, like, follow, any of that good stuff on social media or any of the platforms that you're getting this podcast. It always helps the algorithm. And also watch out for our next episode where we'll bring you more insights and actionable ideas to help you grow your business. And I'm going to steal Bill's line at the end here. Remember, the challenge is yours to capitalize on what the future offers.
If you want to join the conversation or connect with us, please visit us at synergizepodcast.com. This content is provided for general information purposes only. The views expressed by non-affiliated guest speakers are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinion of TradePMR or its affiliates. TradePMR and its affiliates do not endorse any guest speakers or their companies and therefore give no assurances as to the quality of their products and services. This channel is not monitored by TradePMR. TradePMR does not provide investment advice, tax advice, or legal advice. TradePMR is a member of FINRA and SIPC. TradePMR Inc. is registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, MSRB. TradePMR provides brokerage and account services to registered investment advisors. Custodial services provided by First Clearing. First Clearing is a trade name used by Wells Fargo Clearing Services, LLC. Member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer and non-bank affiliate of Wells Fargo & Company. Copyright 2025. TradePMR Inc. For a transcript of this episode with sources, visit synergizepodcast.com.